The Season 13 jungle has arrived and everyone is testing any sort of champion they can, and they're trying to figure out the best way to full clear and which best routes suit them. In this video, I will go over every single jungle route you will need to know for Season 13 no matter what champion you're playing, and what you're gonna need to consider when you're trying to optimize your best early game plan given the new meta that is upon us. We need to ensure the routes that you are doing, no matter what champion you're trying to play, obviously classical junglers will still be the best, are viable for the Season 13 meta, not old school variants like a 4-camp inner clear. Please just don't do it. And also remember for each clear to keep in mind adaptable pathing. If you are a 4 to 5 to 6 camper, especially the latter two, and you see action you can influence, focus on that and don't stick to your clears blindly. A 6-camp intended clear can become a 4-camper if you can see and realize an invade is possible on the enemy jungler, or maybe a gank in the bottom lane looks juicy and thick and fresh. And just so you know, I will be conducting a free lecture on Friday in the Gosu Academy Discord. It will be a class to discuss the Season 13 jungle, what you should expect and what you can basically focus on as you're trying to navigate all of this chaos. This will be done through the 30-day training program that they have every single month, except, as I said, it is free. All you have to do is click the link in the description below, use code Virkayu, and it will take off the first month free. You can learn all you need to know about the jungle, have a Q&A session with me. There's a whole bunch of other challenger coaches in the Discord as well that you can hang out with and speak to about different roles. So if you have any further questions after this video, and maybe the best junglers that will be coming on Friday, hopefully I will see many of you there. Due to the Scuttle spawn, shifting each route will provide unique benefits, but the time between camp spawns and the experience remains the same. This obviously is minus the Krugs, which have 17 less experience, but the unique benefit is that you now have dead time between the finishing of your clear as well as the Scuttle Crab spawning. So you have to figure out which routes are best optimized so that you are just not waffling. I don't want to see people doing a 3-camper, waiting for that 315 crab after not ganking, kind of walking around in circles. Ideally, you want to fill that space with an extra camp because of the 15-second delay on the crab spawn, or you can fill the time looking to snowball your chosen win condition and try to control a double scuttle to set up your second rotation clear. On that note, if you have nothing to do on one side of the map and you simply need to reset because you can't get the crab, there's nothing to gank, you can swap to the other side with more forgiveness to get that opposite crab, because normally if you 315 clear and there's no crab to take, you have to go back to base, you risk being double scuttled. But because the enemy jungler now will have control of that bottom 330 crab, you can go back to base and get that top 330 crab as well. Just remember, it's still not worth dying over. That aspect continues from Season 12. And also remember that each clear can be reversed and started on the opposite sides no matter what side of the map you are playing on. Now first up we have the 6 campers, because that is the one that everyone is talking about. All of a sudden, anyone can full clear, anyone can basically do red all the way to the blue side, or blue all the way to the red side. Don't forget we do have the Raptors Krugs red into that blue grub wolves, or the Raptors Krugs red into the wolves blue grub. You can shift that based upon your sequencing. The whole concept though is that you do all 6 camps, and if you're being leashed, the stereotypical way of doing it is still the best way. The issue is that some junglers who think they can full clear, just because someone tweeted it, yeah, they can't necessarily do that. If you're doing a 334 clear and getting the scuttle, that is now an option for you. That's great. But if you are a jungler that isn't meant to full clear and meant to be a bit more active, why? All that means is you can maybe throw in one extra camp, still get the gank off and still control the scuttle or do your invades. We'll talk about that in the other clear routes. The most notable thing about jungle experience is that we really want to stack our jungle item. We want those 40 treats to become 20 as soon as possible so that we can use it on champions and get the upgraded 900 damage. Remember, I've covered all the jungle changes last week already. I'll link that below. So that means a full clear really sets you up for a second sequence, which again is another 4 treats, plus the random ones that are going to show up every 60 seconds. However, if you're a normal jungler, some junglers haven't actually had a huge benefit in their full clear speed. Some are a little bit slower. Some can physically do it now, but it's still not that quick. For example, a Zed can do a 758 full clear, while a Camille might think, hey, someone said I could do it, so I'm gonna do it. And then they're busy on their gromp about to go to blue, and then Zed shows up, but Zed didn't factor in the lane prio nor the PvP nature of it, and, you know, Camille says call an ambulance, but not for me. On the other side, you expect the Mundo to full clear by 3 minutes, and then Invader Kha'Zix, who also thinks he can full clear, but he is inherently slower than a Mundo. And now what's happening is junglers who couldn't do a full 6 camp route can now do it, albeit a little bit slower. Some who did it in 315 will still be doing it at 315, and some will be doing it slower or faster than 315, like your Mundos and your Zeds. So it will depend on your champion's skill set. For example, we can have an Ahri do a red side at a decent clear. She could very easily do a full clear in a solid time and still gank the lane. The decision here to cut to look for the dive isn't always necessarily the best one, but it showcases the importance of adaptability when you are doing a 6-camp route. Obviously, then she can fall back down. This will be your standard way to play if you don't adapt, but at the same time, please just don't do it for the sake of it. If you are 330 full clearing, losing a crab and not getting action, another jungler who's 3-minute full clearing is getting double scuttle action, is ganking lanes before you, and so you really need to think about doing another type of jungle route, and that could be a 5-camper. And obviously in this case, the junglers who can effectively do a red Krugs, Raptors, Wolves, Blue into a ganking crab, and then fall back to the Gromp, you may still do that, but historically that has been some of the worst win rate data in all of jungle routes history because of how long it took the Krugs to be killed. Now, with the Krugs being easier to kill, even at the expense of their experience, it still might not be the best option because what we can do here is 5-camp, gank, crab, go back down to the bottom crab, take a bottom lane gankings, and then loot back up for the Krugs, the second spawn Raptors, the second spawn Wolves, and the second spawn Gromp. That will be the best optimized 5-camp clear. However, what this does enable us to do is think dynamically because of what Riot wanted with the change to the Krugs, enabling more diversity in our early routes. It can very easily allow you to snack that Krug camp and skip a Raptor or a Wolf camp. Why would you do this? Well, as you saw, if you're against a Zed or a Mundo type jungler who are done at 3 minutes, and you're going to be done at 325, 320, 330, that's more than enough time for them to invade you, kill you, take your stuff maybe, take a crab, double scuttle you, and gank the lanes. So you really don't want to be caught with your pants down. You want to make sure you speed up your clear to match them, which is what we've been doing for the longest time. This is your matchup knowledge. This is how we play the jungle. So what you do is you say, well, instead of skipping the Krugs and the Gromp, because those are the juicy edge camps, I'm going to make sure I take both of those, and I'm going to skip the Raptors if it takes too long for me to take, or if they're easy for me to take, I can skip the Wolves and just fall back to them later. And we saw Graves do that quite a lot in Season 12 as well. So this is my hidden OP route that you can go ahead and try if your champion doesn't really do a 6-camper with the best time frame. Remember, you still want to get out ahead of the crab, you still want to get one gank off beforehand, you don't necessarily want to finish at 330, take a crab and base. That just exacerbates issues over the past 2 years. It makes you an ostrich jungler, and yes, for example, a Warwick who does a 4-camper, Kindred who does a 4-camper, you can easily throw in that Krug camp now, make it a 5-camper, and have a very similar tempo to what we used to, which means obviously a sooner level 4, more ability to fall back to better treat snacking, better stacking of our smite. All of it is good, more gold, more experience. So think about that if your 6-camper just isn't cutting it. Next up, we have the 4-camp clears, which is what I just mentioned, and very much you can still do these, and you still should do these if you happen to be the champions on your screen now. Yes, because Krug is easy to take, you could look to do that kind of stuff, but why not just do the typical red-blue side, and that gives you so much time to gank top, to gank mid, to still invade, to fall back to that crab if all of that works. You can do 2 things instead of 1 thing and still double scuttle. And then because the Raptors and the Krugs are easier to secure now, the jungle item does give you a bit of AoE damage, but it can only do so much. You can afford to fall back to those if you happen to be those Warwicks, Kindreds, and so on, and take them with relative ease. And then obviously you have all of those bottom lane decisions around that double scuttle should you be blessed enough to secure it. Now a nice new OP route against those really fast full clear junglers like your Zeds, when you just simply cannot match it and you're worried about those invades because there's nothing for them to do. If there's no lane to gank, no crab to take, they're gonna invade you. Even if the counter jungling has been nerfed, strong junglers will very easily still be able to snack all of your stuff away because they're slower, but you can't fight them, so you have to leave. In that case, you can simply do your red, Krugs, do your blue, do your Grump. This is an older clear, and the point is not to stop after the Grump, but you could. You can stop after the Grump, you can gank a bottom lane, you can gank the mid lane, you could do the invading. It's not the best clear to do, but it allows you to secure the Krugs and the Grump, both edge camps, and have them respawn. More experience, more gold. The benefit though is that you get to reverse clear away. You now snack the Wolves, you snack the Raptors if you can, but you don't have to. You then take the top scuttle, and of course you can gank the top lane, the lane you really want to snowball in this patch. That leaves the enemy jungler on the bottom side without you, and remember, if you want to avoid them, this is great, but it's also great if you say start on the red, and they start on the red also, and they're going to the top side and you actually want to fight them, hey, then you can 4-camp reverse up and meet them there and do the fisting, do the fighting, and do the battling. Now, we are no stranger to 3-camp clears, and all of us know the stereotypical ones of the red Raptors Krugs, or the red Krugs Raptors into the ganks in the mid lanes and the side lanes. You can also do the really old school Season 9 thing if you're a Season 9 veteran, Wolves, red Krugs. I don't really recommend that anymore, obviously, but you could in theory do it. However, what are the benefits of this route? It allows you 3-camp into action. With the delay in the scuttle spawn, that will leave a lot of dead time, and the issue obviously is if you gank the side lane, what if you're getting counter jungled? And yes, you can still get counter jungled Yes, I have seen some vertical jungling in the VOD review I've done today, and then they would cut back and take your blue side. Now, because of the time sink, they might not exactly be able to do that, but if the enemy team has prior, they will. And so if they start on the same side as you and you do this play, it works out better, because then of course you can cut across, gank the mid lane, invade the red side if you want, take a top scuttle, and obviously protect your blue side. That is the dream, that is what we want. However, another variant of this is obviously just being doing a blue side quadrant into the opposite side. Same thing basically, just on the other side. But you can also flex into the side lane just as easily. Obviously that leads to mind games of the enemy jungler meeting you meeting them, but now you won't meet them on the crab. You see the arrows meet on the crab here, but now you're just going to meet in PvP. So in that sense, we could simply skip that crab, gank mid lane, get the bottom crab, look to gank bottom lane, and then fall back to our red side. Or you could simply invade their red side as well. That is a possibility, but the one that we know and the one that we trust and the one that we're used to seeing is the Red Raptors Grump. Obviously from this, we are simply going to go ahead and use our flex clear into controlling an invade, ganking on the mid lane and ganking on the bottom lane. The downside to this clear now is that we could easily fit in a fourth camp, which is why I think the fourth campers are a nice spicy pick for you. That crab will rarely be up by the time you finish this action, but obviously the benefit of this was the classical reverse variant where you do your Red Raptors Grump, you do your blue Wolves, you fall back to the top side, and now instead of going straight to the crab, you could loop in that Krug camp as well. It's really up to you. It's going to be all about which lanes you want to gank, when do you want to gank them, and what the enemy jungler wants to accomplish. Don't forget you can also do buff Grump, that is a classical, it will never die. At the same time, you better have a good game plan for what you want to do after that gank because, as I said, the 315 isn't up, so you might end up giving up a same side 315 just to invade, gank mid, and take the bottom side. That's absolutely fine as well, but I do recommend the full clear 5 camp, 4 camp variants as probably better given the treat meta. Finally, yes, you can still do level 2 and level 1 camper cheeses. You can do Pike Jungle, Blue Grump, and gank bot lane. You could do Pike Jungle and do the red and just gank bot lane. These things still exist, but they are inherent downsides. You are essentially coin flipping your entire existence with someone who could full clear by 3 minutes. You be level 2, they're level 4. Don't recommend it, but you can do it, and it's worth noting that you can still do your level 1 invades, provided you know you have kill threat, and you can stack their camp without pressure, so pay attention to lane prio. And there you have it, these are all of the routes you will need to know for Season 13. Which one works for you and which one doesn't, that will depend on your game plan, how active you want to be, how farming you want to be, what champion you're playing, and exactly how fast you can clear. You want the treats as soon as possible, so keep that in mind. If you're doing shortened clears for action, make sure the action is very much aggressive and very much succeeding, because if you don't, you were better off doing an extra camp or two before that scuttle, before an invade. Let me know what champions with what routes you are planning on testing this week, and of course in this patch, and of course in this season. Hopefully this gives you all of what you need to know for the remainder of the season, because really that's every clear in the game right now. Minus obviously any sort of adapting elements that will shift clears from one form to another, and vertical jungling, those are more map reads and adaptability pathing. But if you want to understand more about the jungle changes, I've left a whole video for that on your screen now.